My parents paid me to move out so they could bring my sister and her family to live with them. Now they want me. Fresh out of college with my business degree, I didn't expect to be unpacking my bags back in my childhood bedroom. Yet here I was, Anna, 22 years old, and once again under my parents' roof. It wasn't exactly the glamorous post-graduation life I'd envisioned, but at least I'd landed a great job. Within a week of relentless job applications, I secured a position at Davidson Marketing with a decent salary and potential performance bonuses. It felt like the start of something big, a stepping stone to the independent life I'd been dreaming of for years. That evening, over Mom's famous meatloaf, I shared my good news. "I'll be out of your hair in 3 months," I said confidently, slicing into the slightly overcooked dinner. "I just need to save up a bit for a deposit on my own place." The clinking of forks stopped abruptly. My parents exchanged a look, the kind that growing up always meant trouble. "Moving out?" Mom asked, setting her fork down. Her tone had an edge of disbelief. Dad cleared his throat. "Anna, you know your mom can only work part-time because of her back problems, and things aren't looking great at the plant. We could really use your help with the bills," Mom added softly. Her eyes darted to the kitchen wall where the peeling paint betrayed years of deferred maintenance. "And you wouldn't have to pay rent here. It just makes more sense, doesn't it?" I stared at my half-eaten meatloaf, feeling trapped. They had a point, sort of. They were my parents after all, and I didn't want to come across as selfish. "Maybe a few extra months wouldn't hurt," I murmured. Life settled into a routine. Work, home, bills, dinner. Mom made sure there was always a meal on the table, and I convinced myself the arrangement was manageable. But then, last weekend, everything changed when my older sister, Sarah, showed up with her husband, Mike, and their kids, Emma and Lucas. It was like someone flipped a switch. "Oh, my precious angels," Mom cooed, scooping up 4-year-old Emma. Dad laughed heartily as he swung 2-year-old Lucas onto his shoulders. "Sarah, you look wonderful. Tell us everything. How's your garden? How's book club?" Mom's voice was dripping with admiration as she hung on every word Sarah said. I hovered in the doorway, a smile pasted on my face while bitterness churned in my stomach. That was the thing about Sarah. She'd always been the star of the show. 7 years my senior, she was the golden child who could do no wrong. I, on the other hand, had perfected the art of playing second fiddle. "Anna, be a dear and put on some coffee," Mom called over her shoulder, not even glancing my way. As I stood in the kitchen, staring at the coffee machine, the laughter from the living room swirled around me like a cruel reminder. I thought back to when I was 11, sitting at this same kitchen table with my straighter report card. Mom barely glanced at it before asking Sarah about her college application. The pattern had never changed. That night, as I tried to sleep, I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling. The arrival of Sarah's family always disrupted the peace, but this time felt different. I'd been slowly adjusting to my life here, convincing myself it was temporary. Now, the weight of my parents' favoritism and my own sacrifices pressed down harder than ever. The next morning, it began. Over breakfast, Mom's phone rang. Her face fell as she listened, nodding and murmuring reassurances. "Of course, sweetheart," she said, glancing at me. "We'll make room." I had a sinking feeling as she hung up. "What's going on?" I asked, setting my coffee cup down. "Sarah and Mike need a place to stay," Mom said. "They've hit hard times." The words knocked the air out of me. "And you're just letting them move in without asking me?" "Don't be dramatic," Mom said. "There's plenty of room. Plenty of room." I stared at her, wondering if she even noticed how small my space had already become. They didn't ask me. They just assumed. Again. And that was the moment I realized this wasn't temporary. This was my life, and it was only going to get worse unless I did something about it. The following weekend, Sarah and her family moved in. 3 cars, full of their belongings, pulled into the driveway early Saturday morning. And before I'd even finished my coffee, Dad was hauling boxes up the stairs. Mom had me move my things into the smallest bedroom in the house, a windowless storage room that barely fit a twin bed and a dresser. My old room, which was twice the size, became the kids' playroom. "They need the space," Mom said, handing me a stack of blankets. "You don't mind, do you?" What was I supposed to say? I nodded stiffly and spent the morning squeezing my life into that glorified closet. By midday, Sarah had claimed the living room with her pile of throw pillows and kids' toys, and Mike had set up a laptop on the kitchen table, muttering about job applications while scrolling through social media. Emma and Lucas ran screaming through the house, and every attempt to quiet them was met with Sarah's dismissive, "They're just kids, Anna. Lighten up." The noise was unbearable. I tried to retreat to my tiny room to work or read, but it didn't matter. Lucas loved bursting through the door with crayons in hand, ready to decorate my walls, while Emma practiced cartwheels inches from my laptop. "Could you please keep them out of my room?" I finally asked Sarah one evening after dinner. My voice was calm, but my nerves were frayed. She barely looked up from her phone. "Don't be such a grouch. They're just playing," Mom chimed in from the couch, rubbing her back. "You know how hard it is for Sarah right now, Anna. A little understanding wouldn't hurt." I swallowed my frustration and went back to my room, feeling like an outsider in my own home. This wasn't what I signed up for. Every bill still came out of my account. Utilities, groceries, even the internet, they all used without hesitation. But my patience was thinning, and the stress was beginning to show. A few weeks later, I came home from work to find Sarah waiting for me at the door, already dressed up. "Oh, good. You're back," she said, grabbing her purse. "Mike and I have dinner plans and the kids are in the playroom. They've eaten, so just make sure they're in bed by 8, thanks." Before I could respond, she was out the door, leaving me standing, stunned. By the time I managed to get Emma and Lucas to bed, I was exhausted. My laptop sat unopened on my desk. My plans for a quiet evening completely derailed. I stared at the ceiling that night, wondering how my life had spiraled into this mess. The breaking point came the following weekend, when Mom called a family meeting during breakfast. I sat at the table, sipping my coffee as Mom and Sarah exchanged meaningful looks. "Anna," Mom began, folding her hands on the table, "we've been talking, and we need to make some adjustments around here." "Adjustments?" I echoed, already bracing myself. Sarah jumped in. "It's just that with everything going on, it makes sense for you to contribute a little more. Maybe cover the groceries, or I'm already paying all the bills," I interrupted, my voice sharper than intended. "Yes, and we appreciate that," Mom said quickly, as if soothing a child. "But Sarah and Mike are in a difficult spot, and we all need to pitch in. It's only fair." I stared at them, disbelief tightening my chest. "Fair? You're asking me to pay for everything while I'm shoved into a storage closet and babysit your kids every weekend?" "Anna, you're being selfish," Dad said, shaking his head. "Family helps family." "Help?" I laughed bitterly. "You don't need help. You need a live-in babysitter, an ATM." Sarah gasped, her voice rising. "How can you say that after everything Mom and Dad have done for you?" "They've done plenty for you," I shot back, my hands trembling. "I've been paying my own way since I was a teenager. I didn't have the luxury of loans or handouts, remember?" Mom's face hardened. "We're all struggling, Anna. Maybe it's time you stop thinking only of yourself." The words hit like a slap, but something inside me snapped. I stood, my chair scraping against the floor. "I'm done," I said firm. "I'm done being taken advantage of." "Anna," Mom called after me as I stormed out of the room. But I didn't look back. For the first time, I didn't feel guilty about standing up for myself. It all came crashing down one Saturday morning. I had been out late the night before, unwinding with coworkers at a happy hour, and was looking forward to sleeping in. But the sound of my bedroom door flying open shattered that hope. "Anna." Sarah's voice was shrill. "Why didn't you pay the internet bill?" I bolted upright, groggy and disoriented. "What are you talking about? I paid it last week." "Well, it's been disconnected," she snapped, holding up her phone like a prosecutor presenting evidence. "Mike's in the middle of job applications, and now we can't even get online." My stomach twisted. I grabbed my own phone and checked the app for the account. What I saw made my blood run cold. "Insufficient funds. Payment rejected." "That's impossible," I muttered, scrolling through the recent transactions. But then I saw it. A $2,000 withdrawal I didn't authorize. My rent savings, gone. "Anna, fix it," Sarah barked, oblivious to the panic rising in my chest. I ignored her, storming out of the room to find my parents. They were in the kitchen, sipping coffee like nothing was wrong. "Did you take money out of my account?" I demanded, holding up my phone. My voice was shaking. Mom blinked at me innocently. "We didn't take anything. Don't lie to me," I snapped. "The only people with access to my account are you and me." Dad finally cleared his throat. "We needed it to help Sarah and Mike. They're struggling, Anna. You're young. You'll bounce back." For a moment, the words didn't register. It felt like I'd been punched in the chest. "You stole from me without even asking?" "We didn't steal," Mom said firmly, as if the distinction mattered. "We're family, and you've always been so responsible. We knew you'd understand." I stared at the rage boiling under my skin. "Understand? You drained my savings. That was for my apartment, for my future." "Anna, stop being dramatic," Sarah cut in, leaning against the doorframe. "You're acting like you're the only one who's ever had to make sacrifices. Mike and I are trying to rebuild our lives, and you're hoarding money like it's the end of the world." My heart raced as I realized the full extent of their audacity. "I've been paying your bills, babysitting your kids, and sacrificing my life while you sit around doing nothing, and now you think you're entitled to my savings. You're being selfish," Mom said, shaking her. "We've all had to tighten our belts. Sarah's family needs help, right? And we're all in this together." Something inside me snapped. The weight of years of being overlooked, underappreciated, and exploited broke free in a wave of pure fury. "No," I said, my voice low but firm. "We're not in this together. I'm the one keeping this house afloat. I'm the one sacrificing everything while you all take and take and take." "Anna," Dad started, but I held up a hand to silence him. "You don't get to talk," I said, my voice rising. "You stole from me. And as of today, I'm done. I'm leaving." The room fell silent. Mom's face paled. "You can't just leave. What about the bills? What about the kids?" "That's not my problem, Annie," I said, turning toward the stairs. "Figure it out yourselves." Behind me, Sarah erupted. "You're abandoning us. After everything we've done for you." I whirled around, fire in my eyes. "What you've done for me? Are you serious? I've been nothing but a servant to this family. I've worked myself to the bone while you all treat me like dirt." "You're overreacting," Mom said, her voice shaking. "This is your home, your family." "No, Mom," I said, finally feeling the strength to say what I'd been holding back for years. "This is your circus, and I'm done being one of your performers." I went upstairs and packed my things with shaking hands. Sarah stood in the doorway, shouting insults, but I didn't care anymore. I threw my essentials into a suitcase, grabbed my laptop, and walked out the door without looking back. The drive to my friend Rachel's apartment was a blur. My phone buzzed relentlessly with calls and messages, but I ignored them all. By the time I arrived, I was shaking with a mix of anger and relief. "You okay?" Rachel asked as she helped me carry my bags inside. I let out a shaky laugh. "I don't know, but I feel free for the first time in years." That night, as I lay on Rachel's couch, I finally felt like I could breathe. For the first time, I wasn't drowning in their demands. I was done being the family scapegoat, and I wasn't going back. I woke up the next morning to the buzz of my phone. The notifications were endless. Texts, missed calls, voicemails. I didn't need to open them to know what they said. My family had always been predictable. Mom's guilt trips, Dad's stern lectures, Sarah's fiery indignation. Still, I couldn't resist the urge to look. The first text was from Mom. "Mom, Anna, you've really hurt us. I can't believe you'd abandoned your family like this. We need to talk." The next was from Sarah. "Sarah, you're selfish, immature, and ungrateful. Mike and I gave up so much for this fam, and this is how you repay us?" And then Dad, ever the moral authority. "Dad, you need to come back and fix this mess. Your mother is devastated. Family doesn't give up on each other." I stared at the screen, my chest tightening with a mix of anger and heartbreak. They didn't get it. They never would. By noon, Mom's number flashed on my phone again. I hesitated, debating whether to answer, but part of me wanted closure. I swiped to accept the call. "Anna," Mom started, her voice sharp with accusation. "How could you just leave like that? Do you have any idea how much stress you've caused?" I took a deep breath, trying to steady my voice. "Mom, you stole from me. You drained my savings. How am I supposed to feel about that?" "We didn't steal," she snapped. "We borrowed. It's what families do for each other in tough times." "No, Mom," I said, my tone icy. "Families ask. They don't take without permission and expect everything to be fine. You've been using me for years and I'm done." "You're being dramatic," she said dismissively. "We were going to pay you back." "With what?" I shot back. "You've been leaning on me for everything. Bills, babysitting, my savings, and I've let it happen because I felt guilty, but I'm not your scapegoat anymore." "Anna, be reasonable," Dad interjected, taking the phone from Mom. "We're your family. You're just going to throw that away." I clenched my fist, my voice trembling with both anger and hurt. "You threw it away the moment you decided I didn't matter, when you made me feel like I was only useful if I was giving something. Well, I'm not giving anymore." Dad's voice hardened. "If you walk away from this family, don't expect us to welcome you back with open arms." I swallowed the lump in my throat. "That's up to you, but I'm not coming back." I hung up, my hands shaking. Tears pricked my eyes, but I refused to let them fall. I'd spent years crying over their neglect, and I wasn't going to let them steal another tear. That evening, Rachel and I sat on her couch, a mug of hot tea ends. She listened quietly as I recounted the call, her face twisting with disbelief. "They actually stole from you and tried to justify it?" she asked, shaking her head. "Unbelievable." "Yeah," I said, my voice hollow, "but I shouldn't be surprised. They've always put Sarah first." Rachel placed a hand on my shoulder. "You did the right thing. You've been carrying them for too long. It's time to focus on you." Her words stuck with me as I started rebuilding my life. The first step was securing my own space. Within a week, I'd found a small but cozy one-bedroom apartment a short drive from work. It wasn't much, but it was mine. The first night there, I sat on the floor with takeout boxes and a cheap lamp as my only light. For the first time in years, the silence felt like freedom instead of loneliness. The messages from my family continued for weeks, alternating between guilt trips and outright hostility. I read some of them, but most went unanswered. Sarah sent a particularly venomous one. "Sarah, don't come crying to us when you realize you've made a huge mistake. You're going to end up alone, and it'll be your fault." Instead of anger, her words brought clarity. I'd been afraid of being alone for so long that I'd let them take advantage of me. Now I wasn't afraid any. In the weeks that followed, I started reconnecting with parts of myself I'd forgotten. I went to the gym after work, joined a book club, and spent weekends exploring the city instead of babysitting. The weight that had sat on my chest for years was finally lifting. One evening, as I unpacked the last box in my apartment, I found a photo of my family, Mom, Dad, Sarah, and me, smiling at a barbecue years ago. For a moment, my resolve wavered. I missed the idea of family, even if the reality had been far from perfect. But as I looked closer, I saw it. Even in this picture, Sarah was front and center, and I was off to the side. It was a metaphor for my life with them, a reminder of why I'd left. I slipped the photo into a drawer and closed it firmly. My life was mine now, and I wasn't going to waste another second living in someone else's shadow. Life after leaving my family wasn't easy, but it was mine. The first few weeks in my new apartment felt like stepping into an entirely new world. The silence was strange at first. No children screaming, no TV blaring, no one barging into my room uninvited. But as the days passed, that silence began to feel like peace. I threw myself into creating a space that reflected who I was, something I'd never been able to do in my parents' house. I painted the walls a soft sage green, hung up prints of my favorite art pieces, and bought a cozy second-hand couch that I spent a whole weekend restoring. Bit by bit, I made the apartment feel like home. For the first time in years, I had weekends to myself. No babysitting, no guilt trips, no demands. I joined Rachel and her friends on more outings, hiking trips, brunches, even a weekend yoga retreat. I rediscovered hobbies I hadn't touched in years: sketching, journaling, baking just for fun. Work was another bright spot. Without the weight of family drama, I poured my energy into my job at Davidson Marketing. My focus paid off when, 3 months later, my boss called me into her office to offer me a promotion. "You've been doing incredible work," she said with a smile. "We'd like to make you the team lead on the upcoming campaign." I accepted, of course, and treated myself to a celebratory dinner that night. Just me, a good book, and the best sushi in town. Every now and then, the past tried to creep back in. Mom would leave the occasional voicemail, her tone switching between apologetic and accusatory. Sarah sent me long-winded texts about how I'd betrayed the family. Dad remained stoically silent. I ignored it all. One rainy Sunday afternoon, though, an email popped up from Mom with the subject line, "I'm sorry." Against my better judgment, I opened it. The message was short and hesitant. She admitted they'd taken me for granted and apologized for how they'd treated me. "We didn't realize how much we were asking you until you were gone," she wrote. "I don't expect you to forgive us, but I hope we can start to rebuild someday." I stared at the screen, unsure how to feel. Part of me wanted to reply, but I wasn't ready. Not yet. For now, I needed to keep my distance and focus on the life I was building. 1 year after moving out, I hosted my first dinner party in my apartment. It wasn't anything fancy, just Rachel, a few co-workers, and me with a spread of homemade pasta and garlic bread. As we laughed and shared stories, I looked around the room and realized how much my life had changed. I wasn't lonely. I wasn't overwhelmed. I was happy. Looking back, the lesson was clear. I'd spent too many years putting everyone else first, afraid of being seen as selfish or ungrateful. But standing up for myself wasn't selfish. It was necessary. I'd learned that self-respect was something you had to claim, not wait for others to give you. Family isn't about blood. It's about mutual love, respect, and support. And if my family couldn't provide that, I could build one of my own with friends, co-workers, and the people who truly valued me. The photo of my family still sat in my drawer, untouched. I thought about it sometimes, but it no longer brought me pain. It was a reminder of where I'd come from and how far I'd grown. Maybe someday, I'd sit down with Mom, Dad, or even Sarah, and talk about everything that had happened. Maybe we'd rebuild something healthy. Or maybe we wouldn't. Either way, I knew I'd be okay, because now I was living for me, and that was the greatest gift I could have ever given myself. This resolution ties up loose ends while leaving room for hope. It shows Anna's growth, newfound happiness, and the life she's built independently with a hint of potential reconciliation in the future. Story 2. The moment I saw her at the airport, my stomach lurched. It was Amelia, of course, decked out in her signature flashy style. She was impossible to miss. I walked towards her, each step deliberate, trying to control the whirlwind of emotions inside me. "Fancy seeing you here, Eleanor," she chirped, her voice dripping with fake surprise. I forced a smile. "I wish you'd come to my wedding," I retorted, my voice laced with sarcasm, mirroring hers. The bitterness of the past hung thick between us. She arched an eyebrow, a smirk playing on her lips. "Oh, Liam and I are beyond such trivialities now." Liam, even his name ignited a fire in my chest. My husband, or rather ex-husband, now engaged to my own sister. The irony was as painful as it was absurd. "You must be thrilled marrying a surgeon," I said, struggling to keep my voice steady. Amelia always had a taste for the finer things in life, and Liam, with his successful career and charming demeanor, fit the bill perfectly. Amelia laughed, a sound that grated on my nerves. "Thrilled is an understatement. Al, we're planning a lavish wedding, something you never had, despite being with him first." Her words stung, but I refused to show it. I remembered the day I discovered their affair. The lies, the deceit, it was a wound that refused to heal. "I'm happy for you," I lied. "In fact, I came here to give you something." I extended my hand holding a small plain envelope. Amelia's eyes narrowed suspiciously. "What's this?" "Just some crucial information I thought you should have," I said, masking the tremor in my voice. She snatched the envelope from my hand, her perfectly manicured nails briefly scratching my skin. I watched as she tore it open, her expression shifting from smugness to confusion, then to horror. Inside, I had placed a copy of a medical malpractice lawsuit filed against Liam just 2 months before she announced her pregnancy. It detailed a botched surgery and a hefty settlement that threatened to destroy his career. Amelia's face pale. This must be a mistake." "Mistake?" "No mistake," I said calm. "You might want to discuss it with Liam before making any lavish plans." Her hands trembled, the letter crumpling under her grip. "You're lying," she hissed. "Am I?" I turned to leave, feeling a twisted sense of satisfaction. "Good luck, Amelia." As I walked away, I didn't look back. The past was a place of betrayal and heartache, a place I no longer belonged to. Today, I was taking the first step towards something new, something mine. I found a quiet cafe and sank into a plush armchair, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee a comforting presence. As I sipped the warm, bitter liquid, memories flooded back, each one a sharp shard of the past. It had all started so innocently. Amelia, my younger sister, needed a place to stay just for a few weeks while she looked for an apartment. Liam, ever the generous one, was enthusiastic about her staying with us. I brushed off my initial unease as simple sisterly concern. "How long do you plan to stay?" I'd asked her, trying to mask my hesitation. "Just until I find a new place," she'd replied, her eyes avoiding my "you know how tough the market is." I had nodded, trying to be the supportive older sister, but weeks turned into months, and Amelia showed no intention of leaving. During that time, Liam's attitude towards me changed. Our conversations dwindled, our easy laughter ceased, and his late nights at the hospital became more frequent. One evening, as I prepared dinner alone, I heard them laughing in the living room. The sound pierced through me. I peeked in to see them close, too close. My heart clenched, but I dismissed it as paranoia. "Dinner's ready,"